to Bhanu Maharaj.
Haribo!
Holiness Bhanu Maharaj ki Jai! So thank you so much for visiting Leicester today, Maharaj. For those of us who are meeting Maharaj for the first time, Maharaj is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj joined ISKCON in 1970 and took initiation in 1971. Maharaj received direct instructions from Srila Prabhupada on the art of deity worship, and Maharaj is one of the main authorities on deity worship in ISKCON and has been guiding many devotees in this beautiful spiritual art and science of worshipping Krishna. Maharaj is also a scholar and has translated many Vaishnava literature and commented on them and making them available in English for us. And today we have a two-part series. This morning and this evening we'll continue the theme of our journey to Prema. Maharaj, thank you again for being with us.
Okay. So we should start the journey to Prema. Just explain about Guru or not? You want that one? Huh?
If it's part 1 and part 2, we can...
Oh, well, I have about 20 on Gurus. Okay, anyway, we have our journey to Prema. We have a whole thing in, Madhuri Kadambini that explains each stage from Shraddha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha, Nirviti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Sakti, Bhava, and Prema. But that starts out with, faith and Guru. And in ISKCON, the issue of Guru has become quite complex, a matter of discussion among many people. And GBC is also dealing with this issue on maybe a yearly issue. We have always Guru problems. So, there are many ways of approaching this, and therefore every year I do a presentation on Guru, which is a little slightly different each year. It was actually started in 2006, I think, when GBC had a midterm meeting in Prabhupada Desh in Italy, and they discussed the future of ISKCON, and then they identified different areas they had to discuss. So one of the areas was Guru, and Guru's relationship with ISKCON. Because at that time, devotees could see that the power of Guru was more than the power of the managers of ISKCON. And we didn't have one Guru, we had many Gurus. So therefore, the society could divide up into many parts because we have loyalty to Guru, and we had many Gurus, so therefore that could be the basis of starting individual movements within ISKCON. Which arose from the fact that managers were a little bit frustrated because Gurus would give orders to the disciples and ignore the orders of the temple presidents and managers. And sometimes temples would be empty because the disciples of one Guru would disappear one day and go somewhere else. So that was the problem. And we established a committee to investigate that issue, and I was on that committee with Sri Bhanu Swami and Bhanu Swami and a few others. And we came up with a paper harmonizing lines of authority, which became a compulsory reading for future disciples. And in that paper, there was a description of how the Guru has certain powers and loyalty of the disciples, etc. And this often competed with the loyalty to ISKCON in general and to the local temple. And because people get initiated, they tend to follow the orders of the Guru instead of the orders of the temple. This becomes a little complicated because sometimes the Guru has no managerial authority at all, but he may often tell his disciples to go off and start their own individual projects without any authorization from anybody. But disciples will follow that because the authority of Guru was more than the authority of anybody else. But this also mixes up two things. Authority. The Guru has an authority in ISKCON over spiritual knowledge and passing on spiritual knowledge and inspiration. It doesn't automatically give him authority over management or starting temples or in handling money. Those areas are under the authority of the managerial structure that Srila Prabhupada set up, which was the GBC, not the Gurus. But then Gurus often take over both roles, and therefore we end up with a competing system. In spite of the work done by the committee and the fact that it is compulsory reading for prospective disciples, that same problem is still there in ISKCON. Now, a few years ago, they also made a disciple course to analyze the position of Guru, Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, etc. In spite of that, the problem still continues. So we've made repeated attempts, but somehow conceptions of Guru, etc. somehow don't seem to, the new conceptions of Guru that they're trying to present don't really sink in too much with would-be disciples. So that's a little bit of a problem. So probably we need more education on the issue. Another fact, of course, is that maybe many people, including leaders, do not also understand what a guru does and what his power is. And there are many, we could say, mythologies that have crept into our movement because we ascribe great power to the initiating guru or the Diksha Guru. And at the same time, we don't even really know what is initiation. Is it some sort of magic spell or something, or magic blessing that suddenly when you take initiation you're liberated and you have Prema? Or, what is it? And when does it happen? And does it happen when you get beads chanted on by the Guru, suddenly you're different? Or does it happen if you just get a name, a spiritual name? So when does it happen and what happens and how does it happen? Or does it happen in the fire sacrifice? And so there's many things that people are unclear about. And another problem is that initiation, of course, is there in scriptures, Guru is there in scriptures, but also we tend to institutionalize the process. There's nothing wrong with that, it has its positive aspects. It becomes a good means of identifying loyal members of ISKCON, in one sense, or actually loyal members to a guru, and we would say they're seriously practicing. But it also tends to become a materialized recognition of identity, that I'm now a bona fide member of ISKCON. And that once you're a bona fide member of ISKCON, that's it. So you may not really take seriously the real meaning of surrender to Guru and what that entails for the disciple. So it's not just you get initiation, your responsibility is over. So, in other words, it becomes a label that we can conveniently use to advertise our position. So, I'm initiated, you're not initiated, so automatically I'm superior. Or, I'm initiated, therefore I'm a bona fide member of ISKCON, you're not initiated, so you don't get the same status as being a member of ISKCON. So we get, materialization of the role of Diksha. And then the role of the ambition is to get initiated so you're a recognized member. So in this way it becomes materialized. So anyway, these are some of the problems that arise. And it's not just in ISKCON that such things happen. Any movement will have this problem with when they formalize things tend to get a little bit materialized or whatever. Okay, anyway, so that's one little bit of introduction. So we have some common beliefs. Diksha Guru burns up all my karma during the fire sacrifice. And just recently, somebody told me that he was, initiated somebody, and he missed the fire sacrifice. So I said, I didn't get my karma burned up. So somehow people are thinking that the fire is there to burn up your karma. Of course, fire sacrifices are there in the Vedas, but fire actually is the mouth of the Supreme Lord. Agni is the mouth of the Devatas and ultimately of Vishnu, so we offer grains and ghee into the fire, and the Supreme Lord accepts that offering through fire as the means. So, of course, in the process of doing that, because we're acting as devotees and offering something to the Lord, we automatically burn up karma, not because of the fire, but because of our act of devotion. But equally, we can offer a flower to Krishna and the deity, and we can burn up our karma that way also. So it's not that fires are burning up karma or whatever like that. If we look at our sampradaya, they did diksha, they carried out initiations, but they never had fire sacrifices for that. So if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya took diksha in Gaya, no fire sacrifice. In Chaitanya Mangal, there's a description of Nityananda getting diksha, got a mantra, no fire sacrifice. So fire sacrifice was not part of the Gaudiya initiation process. So it's a very recent thing that has come up. And of course, fire sacrifice is there in the Vedas and the samskar rituals in the Vedas. There's, Vedic fire sacrifice, etc. But even in Pancharatra and in Hari Bhakti Vilas, there is a fire sacrifice for diksha. But no one in the Gaudiya Sampradaya ever followed that, even the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and did fire sacrifices for diksha. In fact, the ceremony was so simple, it only consisted of getting a 10-syllable Krishna mantra in the case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, or we get an 18-syllable Krishna mantra. That's it. That was initiation. There was no ceremony at all. And it was given privately. So we've built up some sort of complicated system in ISKCON for what we call first initiation, with all sorts of rituals attached to it, but most of that was not there originally in our sampradaya. So fire sacrifice itself is not there, and it's nothing to do with burning up karma. So, nevertheless, in ISKCON, we do have this fire sacrifice and whatever, and somehow the devotees, many devotees get attracted to fire sacrifices for some reason, and then they think this has got something to do with burning up karma, because we know that when we take initiation, the guru takes responsibility for your karma, etc. And so they think, okay, the fire sacrifice is burning that up, whatever. So that's the thing. And of course, some say it's in the banana. All your karma gets in the banana. When you sacrifice your banana, all your karma gets burned off. And therefore, you can't eat the banana afterwards. It's all your karma's in there. Your burned up karma's in there. So this again is some sort of mythology that's crept into ISKCON. That's one. Another is the Diksha Guru is my only deliverer, and I have to surrender to Diksha Guru because otherwise I don't get Prema, and I'm not connected to the Sampradaya. So only by taking initiation, I get connected to the Sampradaya, and only through that I can get delivered and get Prema. So therefore I offer everything to him, and I don't listen to anybody else. So that's quite common also. Okay, so what does all this mean? Yes, there is power in Guru to destroy karma. The specific meaning of this is that the Guru takes responsibility for a disciple, and if the disciple commits sinful activities, part of the responsibility is taken up by the Guru. So any responsible person must share the results of any act that his subordinate does. So the citizens, for instance, commit sin, king is responsible. Ministers commit sin, king is responsible. A wife commits sin, husband's responsible. pupil commits sin, teacher is responsible. So it's a common principle, and it's not just that the guru-disciple relationship does that, and not even the Diksha Guru, could be a Shiksha Guru as well, but so many other examples in the material world are there where one takes responsibility and then one shares the result of another's activities. So, that of course is for accepting the acts after the responsibility has been taken. Not for the acts before that. So in other words, this principle is one of responsibility. And as I said, it happens in so many cases. In Hari Bhakti Vilasa it says, the faults of the counselor fall on the king, and the sins of a wife fall on her husband. In the same way, Scripture ascertains the sin of disciples. That is certain. So if you've got many disciples and they all start committing sinful activities, then the guru has to accept that sin. So that's simple. And in Chanakya Niti also, the king is obliged to accept the sins of his subjects. The Purohit, a priest, suffers for those of the king. A husband suffers for those of his wife. And the guru suffers those of his pupils. And Mahabharata says, it is said that a king who, without protecting his subjects, takes 1/6 of their income, acquires their sin. So this thing, and of course, the same in Bhagavatam, it says that the king in his next life shares 1/6 of the results of the pious activities of the citizens, but a king or executive head of the state who simply collects taxes from the citizens but does not give them proper protection as human beings has the results of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens. In exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. So it's a common principle. So it's not just the gurus taking responsibility for sin, but kings, etc., do the same thing. So it's not a distinctive feature of guru and a disciple accepting a guru. Right? Okay. Apart from that, we know that bhakti itself destroys karma. This is a very basic principle. You chant the holy name, you destroy karma. And even if you don't have bhakti, you chant the holy name, as in the case of Ajamil, he destroyed all of his karmas, past, present, future. So, bhakti is very powerful. Chanting the name is very powerful. So, therefore, devotees who chant the holy name or perform bhakti long before initiation, burning up the karmas. This is not that when they become initiated, suddenly something happens and they start burning the karmas. It's happening long before that. So that's one thing. But in previous to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our Vaishnava Sampradayas were following Pancharatric rules. And deity worship was the main activity, not Nam Sankirtan. To worship the deities, you have to take Diksha, and at that Diksha, you get a mantra for worshiping the deity. If you don't get the mantra, you cannot worship the deity. And when you worship the deity, use the mantra. So that is Pancharatric system. So Diksha was related to deity worship. And most sampradayas were doing that. So unless you take initiation, you cannot do deity worship. And consequently, you can't do bhakti. So therefore, you take initiation, you do bhakti with the mantra and do deity worship, and you destroy your sins by doing bhakti. So, yeah, when you take initiation, then you start bhakti and your sins are destroyed. So that's another way of saying that Diksha destroys your karmas, etc. So that was how it was happening, but and you know, of course we know that the bhakti destroys karmas and whatever. But of course, in ancient times, it was largely after initiation you start your process of bhakti, not before, because you cannot do deity worship before. So, power of bhakti is great. And in Lord Chaitanya's movement, the main activity is Nam Sankirtan, which you can chant the name of the Lord, you can chant Hare Krishna without initiation. And you can destroy your sins. So in other words, you don't depend on initiation to start your bhakti. Long before you take initiation and get your mantra, you are destroying your karmas. So for in the modern world, if we're following Lord Chaitanya, it's not an outstanding function that take initiation destroys your karma. It's happening long before that. So we should not worry that only by initiation you get your karmas destroyed. Happening long over that. So, of course, the definition of Diksha, the scriptural definition, which is quoted in Nectar of Instruction and also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, are these two verses here. And devotees often quote them. Because here it says, one, and Diksha means you get Divya Jnana, or spiritual knowledge, and Papasya Sankshayam, destruction of sin. So this is what initiation means. And therefore devotees will say, well, if I don't take initiation, I don't get transcendental knowledge and I don't destroy my sin. So that's the definition of Diksha. So then they think, I've got to take initiation, otherwise I don't destroy my sin, I don't get transcendental knowledge. But this is a little bit of false logic. As I said, holy name without initiation destroys your sins, as in the case of Ajamil. So that doesn't mean. So why this verse is there then at all? It complicates the issue. And it makes like the Diksha something very special, and I can't destroy my sins unless I take initiation. I can't get transcendental knowledge unless I take initiation. So these verses are explained by Jiva Goswami in the Bhakti Sandarbha, and it's not one verse; it's two verses. So we have this first verse, this is the well-known verse. We have the second verse, which is also quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So what does this mean? And why is it stated in this way? Why we have this transcendental knowledge and initiation, whatever. Okay, so Diksha is so called by the wise because it bestows Divya Jnana and destroys sin. So why those two particular items are selected as Diksha? Because Di stands for Divya Jnana and Ksha for Papasya Sankshaya. Ksha. So Diksha. So it's like an abbreviation of transcendental knowledge and destruction of sin. That's Diksha. Abbreviation. So this is often done for words, to explain what words mean. You take the syllables and then you expand on that. So for instance, Mamsa, it means meat. But in Mano Samhita, it says Mam means me and Sa means he. I kill the animal and eat him, and then he gets a chance to kill me and eat me in a future life. In other words, eating meat is bad karma. So Mam and Sa. So it explains it in terms of these two syllables, Mam and Sa. So words are often analyzed by taking the syllables and then discussing them. Okay, so you get transcendental knowledge and you destroy your sins. This means Diksha. But then the next verse is this. Therefore, one should offer, especially to Guru, offer everything except Vaishnava mantra according to the rules of taking Diksha. So, in other words, here you take mantra, Vaishnava mantra. So, what's the relationship here? You get the deity mantra. This is not Hare Krishna mantra. This is your secret mantra. You get a second initiation. That's your Vaishnava mantra. So, the Divya Jnana is the knowledge in the mantra. You get knowledge of identity of the Lord. So we get Krishna mantra, so obviously then we have to worship Krishna. Some gurus may give Ram mantras, and then you worship Rama. So you identify who you're going to worship. That's of course a Pancharatric rule. And Also, relationship, the process to achieve the Lord. And of course we say, it's not just we have the name of the Lord, but in the mantra we also have surrender to the Lord, offering respects to the Lord, so service to the Lord. Yeah? So we offer things to the Lord. That's our relation. That's how we achieve the relationship with the Lord. So this is the Divyaganam which is given in the mantra in a condensed form. Yeah? Of course, this can be expanded, just as the whole Bhagavatam is condensed into Chatusloki, 4 verses in the 2nd canto. And then we have to expand that, and that becomes the whole Bhagavatam. So, or the Vedic Gayatri mantra expands into all the 4 Vedas. So in this way, this mantra that you get, the Krishna mantra, you can expand it, and Sambandha Abhideya Prayoja is all included in that. Okay, so you take that mantra with the object of worship, etc., and then you destroy your karmas, and eventually, by chanting the mantra, you can get Prema, realize the Lord. So that is what Diksha does, and it's doing it through the mantra. So we get a mantra, we get spiritual knowledge, and we destroy sin. So that was the definition, Divyaganam and Papasya Sanchayam. So it happens through the mantra. Take Diksha, we get the mantra from the Diksha Guru, and you don't reveal that mantra to anybody, and you get your Divyaganam, knowledge of the Lord, knowledge of relationship with the Lord, and you destroy your sin. So that is the definition of Diksha. So, actually, we do bhakti long before we take Diksha. So are we destroying that time karma? Yes. So in other words, Diksha is not the only way you destroy your karmas. It's not the only way you get transcendental knowledge. So long before we get that mantra, we're chanting the holy name, we're reading Bhagavatam, we're reading Bhagavad Gita, so we're getting transcendental knowledge. And we're destroying sin. So in other words, to get transcendental knowledge and destroy sin is not the unique quality of taking Diksha. It happens long before we take Diksha. So we shouldn't think there's something special about that. Okay. So, particularly with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's introduced Nam Sankirtan as the main process, not deity worship and not Diksha. So, by chanting the holy name, you can destroy all your karmas. The name itself is non-different from Krishna, and also has a relationship with Krishna in it. Prabhupada says, what is the meaning of Hare Krishna? We're praying to Radha to engage us eternally in Krishna service. It's a relationship. So, Divyaganam and destruction of sin is also in the holy name, which we get long before we take initiation. So in other words, these things are not exclusive to initiation. So the power of the name is so great, you don't even have to chant it with faith. You can chant accidentally, and you can still destroy all your karmas, etc. So very, very powerful. So there's many statements like that. Eka Krishnami Kore Sava Papa Kshaya. There's Kshaya again. Papasya Sankshana. Sava Papa Kshaya. Destruction of all sins by chanting one Krishna name. So if you just chant once, not even 16 rounds, you can destroy all your sins. Generally, to get initiation, we have to chant 16 rounds. So we destroyed our sins long before we've taken initiation. Even uttering Krishna's name a single time destroys all one's sins. The ninefold process of devotional service attains completeness only through Nam. So in other words, we have to chant name, the holy name, in spite of the fact we're doing all other processes. It all depends on name now. It's the most powerful process. Of course, you can just chant once or you can chant accidentally, it has great power, but if you chant with devotion, obviously, we're getting much more. So hopefully those who are chanting, 4 rounds, 8 rounds, or 16 rounds before initiation are also chanting with devotion, and they're getting much greater results. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Lord person face to face, even a person born in the family of dog eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. If he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of God, or chants about him, hears about him, offers him obeisance, or even remembers him. So just chanting once is very, very powerful. And that's not with initiation or anything. So, the goal of bhakti and the goal of diksha is not to destroy your karmas or destroy your sins. The goal is to get prema. So therefore the process of initiation is not to destroy your karmas. If we think that's our whole goal, then there's something wrong. No? This is like the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says there are 4 types of devotees. Yeah? One is the person who worships Krishna, but he wants money. The second is he wants to destroy his suffering. That means to destroy your karma. So this type of bhakti, but it's not pure bhakti. So if we're taking initiation just to destroy our karmas, then that's actually not pure bhakti at all. It happens just as we perform bhakti, karmas are destroyed, yes, but our goal is prema, not destruction of karmas. If we're only striving for destruction of karmas, that leads to liberation, and devotees don't want liberation. So we have to be careful. Okay. So, prema is the goal, not destruction of karmas. How do we achieve that? We could achieve it through getting the Diksha mantra and chanting it. We see in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that Gopakumar got the 10-syllable mantra from his guru, and then he began chanting that. And then he was able to go to Vaikuntha and Ayodhya. So, by chanting that mantra, the secret mantra, you can elevate yourself to the spiritual world and get prema. But Lord Chaitanya has taught another process. Nam Sankirtan is the process of getting prema. As we quoted previously, it includes all the 9 processes of devotional service, including archana. Whatever is in there is also in bhakti. So it is by bhakti that we get the destruction of all sins. But we also get prema. So, in other words, diksha is not the only way we can do bhakti. It's not the only way we can destroy karma. It's not the only way we can get prema. So, nama is the main process for us. And it does not depend on diksha. And therefore, we tell everyone to chant Hare Krishna. Krishna mantra hoite hove samsara mochana. You get free of samsara by Krishna mantra. So this means your diksha mantra, your secret mantra. Krishna nam hoite pabe Krishna charana. You get Krishna's lotus feet by chanting the name of Krishna. So here he's saying that the name is more powerful than the mantra. Chanting Hare Krishna is more powerful than getting your diksha mantra. So, very surprising. Yeah. So, name is very, very powerful. So therefore, we depend on the name to get our prema, not on our mantra. So then do we need a Diksha Guru at all? Well, technically no. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, according to scripture, no. We need holy name. But in order to get prema from the name, we do need some knowledge. Without that knowledge, we'll have namabhas. We'll be chanting, but we don't know who Krishna is, we don't know what our goal is, we would be chanting for liberation or whatever, or Svarga Loka. If we don't have knowledge, then, yes, name is all powerful, but due to our coverings of desires, we'd start desiring other things, so the name will give that. So if you got namabhas and you got impurities, and you don't have knowledge, then you may end up in Svarga Loka instead of going to spiritual world and getting prema. Or you may get liberation, impersonal liberation, instead of getting prema. So, in order to get prema, we do need some knowledge. By that knowledge, we go beyond namabhas and we get sudanam, or pure chanting. We may not be pure because we're going through a nartana vritti, but at least we have the idea that I should be performing pure bhakti. My goal is not Svarga Loka or liberation. And when we're chanting, we're not chanting for material benefits or liberation, even though we still have anarthas or whatever. But at least we have that knowledge. So that is called sudanam. So in sadhana, we practice pure bhakti, even though we're not pure. But Sudha Bhakti means we're chanting with the intention of pleasing Krishna and not trying to satisfy our material desires. Okay. So by namabhas, we get up to liberation, but we don't get prema. We can do sraddha namabhas, we chant intentionally, not accidentally, but we still have lack of knowledge. And eventually, if we get mercy of devotees, we come to sudanam. We start chanting, but we don't know anything. We get knowledge from devotees, and then we can get to sudanam. When we chant sudanam without anarthas, then we can get prema. So, therefore, nama is there, but we should chant sudanama. And to get sudanama, we need knowledge. Where do we get knowledge from? A Shiksha Guru. Somebody has to give us some knowledge. So, we don't need Diksha Guru, but we need Shiksha Guru. Okay, so, for instance, in Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, chanting in namabhas cannot itself give Krishna prema, but by progressing from this stage, that is namabhas, to the stage of sudanam, through following rules of sadhana as directed by a spiritual master, one can eventually achieve prema. So he says spiritual master, it doesn't say Diksha Guru, a guru. So it doesn't have to be your Diksha Guru, someone who actually gives you teaching so you can chant purely. So that's the person we have to give respect to.
Just lift up the mic. Just lift it up. It keeps falling.
So, yes, we do need Shiksha Guru. So, do we need Diksha Guru at all? Of course, we see in the scriptures and Srila Prabhupada's writings, he often says, you have to take a guru, you have to surrender to guru, etc. But you may notice that he doesn't say initiation or Diksha Guru, he just says guru. So the stress often is simply getting guru, and if we look in our sampradaya, how do we trace our sampradaya? By shiksha, not by diksha. So we give more emphasis to the shiksha than to the diksha, and when we say diksha, it means getting your mantra from your gurus to deity worship. Obviously, we're not tracing that. We're tracing shiksha lines. Bhagavatam also doesn't mention Diksha Guru much at all. It mentions shiksha. So Narada Muni teaches Veda Vyas teaches Sukadev teaches Parikshit. There's nothing about diksha there. Yeah? And the importance is given to the transmission of knowledge. So then why do we need a Diksha Guru? Why did Lord Chaitanya take Diksha? Why did Nityananda take Diksha? Why did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati take Diksha? So yes, we have all of our devotees taking Diksha also. So why? Why would they take Diksha when it's not really necessary? So of course, in Bhakti Sandarbha, after describing about Divya Gyanam and that whole verse, and how you get transcendental knowledge and destruction of sin in the mantra, Then Jiva Goswami says, this diksha is mainly for rich householders doing deity worship. So rich householders should spend their money on Krishna. So let them get deities and build temples and spend their money on buying fruits and flowers for the deity. That's how they can engage their wealth. So that's the meaning of that. So in other words, it's a good engagement. Deity worship is a good engagement for rich householders. If you don't have any money, you can't really do deity worship nicely. So better chant Hare Krishna. So we see there's Babaji's in Vrindavan and no money, nothing. There's chanting the holy name 64 rounds a day or whatever, and, meditating on the Lord. We're worried about deities at all. So, but if you're a wealthy person, then you should spend up your money nicely by worshiping the deity, building temples, and that's what happened in Vrindavan. Wealthy merchants build temples for the Goswami, and they sponsor the worship. Goswamis didn't have to do anything. It was all done by rich householders. Okay, so anyway, the diksha is there mainly for deity worship, for rich householders or for temples or whatever. So if we're going to have a nice temple, then we do have to have people who have diksha, because Pancharatra requires that, and we're following Pancharatra rules for deity worship. So we're going to worship the deities, then we do need pujaris. They have to take diksha. That's our rule. So of course, the diksha is there mainly for that. It's not for the sadhana. The main sadhana is chanting Hare Krishna to get prema. But then we also serve the deity. To do that, we need the mantra, etc. So the sadhana, deity worship sadhana, is also there. This is what we call Archana Marga. So in our sampradaya, we never reject that. Worshipping the deity is one of the 5 out of the 64 items. It's one of the 5 principal items, along with chanting the holy name and hearing Bhagavatam, sadhu sangha, and living in the holy Dham. So it's one of the main items to help us attain prema. Nevertheless, it's always secondary to Nam Sankirtan. So because it is there, it is part of our movement, and of course early in the movement, Prabhupada also established deities in London and New York and other places around. So then we do need diksha to get the mantra. Okay, but of course we have Shiksha Guru to get our knowledge so we can chant your name, and then we can get, prema, etc. So we have 2 processes. We have diksha to get our secret mantra, and we get knowledge through that, divyaganam. And we can progress upwards with that. That's Archana Marga, and we have chanting the holy name. No diksha, whatever, not necessary, but we do need the samadhya, so we need some Shiksha Guru. This is called Bhagavata Marga. Now of the 2, we emphasize this Bhagavata Marga, or chanting the holy name. This is the Yuga Dharma, and mantra and chanting, etc. The diksha mantra and Archana Marga is there, but it's secondary. But nevertheless, usually we do that. And in a preaching movement, we can just not have so much deities and emphasize Nam Sankirtan, fine, along with getting knowledge, fine. It's cheaper. And we don't have to build big temples for deities, etc. And we can do that, especially if there's not so many Indian communities around and it's all Westerners. They don't really, coming to the temple for the deities. So we could just survive on chanting the holy name and having a picture there, no problem. But of course, where there is a lot of Indian community, they expect to have deities, so then that's also a preaching mechanism there. So, and if you have that preaching mechanism there, then you do need pujaris and you do have to have diksha. So, and of course, another reason is that, given here. Because of the fickle mind of the devotee, Archana Marga is often recommended along with Bhagavata Marga to engage all of his senses in deity worship along with the chanting of the name. So we chant the holy name, but still people's senses are going all over the place, so therefore they can concentrate on seeing the deity with their eyes and doing services like cooking or dressing or making garlands with their hands, whatever. So it gives an opportunity to Use all your different senses. So that's another advantage of the deity worship. In order to get quick relief from all contaminations required for one to engage in the worship of the Lord in the temple. Worship of the deity in the temple is essential to reduce one's restlessness due to contaminations of conditioned life. So, it's there, and it's very useful, but it's not absolute that you have to do deity worship. That's pancharatra. In ours, its main necessity is nam sankirtan. So it's there, and it helps us purify. So who gets more respect, the Shiksha Guru or the Diksha Guru? Or Srila Prabhupada, who's the main Shiksha Guru? Right? So, because Diksha Guru is not the only means of attaining Prema, he's one way, and through the mantra and through the deity worship, but not the only way. So of course in ISKCON, generally, it is the Diksha Guru who gets all the worship. And we don't worry about Shiksha Guru so much. Therefore, the disciple will worship the Diksha Guru, and they feel that, well, it's a distraction to have to worship anybody else. So therefore, concentrate on Diksha Guru and surrender him, and consequently ignore everything else. So, worship of surrender is obviously emphasized in the scriptures in Bhagavatam and other places, in Bhagavad Gita, but it is not exclusive to a Diksha Guru. And as I said, the Bhagavatam is obviously accepting gurus, but they're mostly Shiksha Gurus. Narada is a Shiksha Guru, and Vyasa is a Shiksha Guru, Sukadeva is a Shiksha Guru, not a Diksha Guru. They're getting the worship, they're getting the surrender, and the disciple is listening to them. So, it's not just the Diksha Guru who is the object of surrender. And therefore, Scripture says you have to equally respect the Diksha and the Shiksha Gurus. They equally deliver the disciple or the jiva. So, they're both regarded as dear servants of the Lord, and we worship them. Okay, so therefore, equal. Of course, the Diksha Guru can give teaching, so he's acting in both functions. Can act in both functions. But if he only gives teaching, doesn't give the mantra, then we say he's a Shiksha Guru. If he only gives the Diksha mantra, then he's a Diksha Guru. But the Diksha Guru can also give teachings, no problem. So he can function both ways. So, we have two types of gurus we should respect, the Shiksha Guru and the Diksha Guru. And both are regarded as empowered by the Supreme Lord, and we give them respect like we worship God. But, though we respect all the gurus as God, we give more respect of God to the higher devotee. So everybody gets respect as like God, but then one is more God than the other. So if the guru is more advanced, we have to give more respect, obviously. So Prabhupada's at the top, so we have to give him the most respect. And so we worship Prabhupada the most, then we can respect other gurus. Yeah. Even though Prabhupada's not your Diksha Guru. He's like a Shiksha Guru, but still, he gets more respect. And if this living guru who's a Shiksha Guru, who's on a higher level than the Diksha Guru, you have to give him more respect than the Diksha Guru. This is the thing. So Krishna Bhajanamrita says, respecting, worshipping the lesser and greater devotees, they first worship the devotee of greater spiritual strength and then those of ordinary strength. And so all devotees are recognized, and they may be recognized as gurus, but nevertheless, we do have variations and levels of gurus as well. So then we have to start distinguishing who's on a higher level, we give more respect, who's on a lesser level, less respect. But of course, respect is always there. And of course, most respect to our founder Acharya and our prominent Shiksha Guru. Yeah. So, that should always be there. So, therefore, we should respect our Diksha Guru because most people are going to probably worship deities. But we also have to recognize that more important than getting the mantra is to get teachings. Now the Diksha Guru, what we call the Diksha Guru in ISKCON, may also give teachings, but others may give more teachings even. So they have to get equal or even more respect because of what they're doing. But we also have to give greatest respect to the person at the highest level, who's also our founder Acharya, that is Srila Prabhupada. So he's established ISKCON, given all the fundamental works and the teachings and the principles and the structure, etc. So we give most respect to Prabhupada. So in other words, it's not just we respect one person and surrender only to one person. We have many people to surrender to. So of course we can always give the excuse it's too confusing to worship so many people. But we do see that in many people have altars, many devotees have altars, and they don't just have Krishna there, they have so many things there. They have Rama there, they'll have Nrsimhadev there, they have Guru Parampara there, and we're worshiping so many people on the altar already. Plus we're worshiping Guru. And of course we don't have one Guru there, we have a whole line of Gurus here worshiping, and we've got Goswamis there also, we're worshiping so many people. So many devotees there, so many forms of the Lord we worship, so that's not an excuse to give only surrender to one person. So in Krishna Bhajamamrita it said, the father is like a guru, his older and younger brothers are also gurus. But the father of one's father or a great relative worthy of greater respect is also guru, but his worship should be double that of the father. So we have different levels of respect, even though we respect everybody. So therefore, we should always recognize Prabhupada's role and give him the most worship of all. And in fact, in our, I think 2013 or 14, the GBC even passed a resolution, a statement. ISKCON members shall be trained to place their faith, trust, and allegiance first and foremost in the founder of Acharya, who is the preeminent Shiksha Guru for every member of ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada is to be worshipped through his words, his murti, his picture, and his devotees. So, in other words, Prabhupada is the main person, and everybody has a direct relationship with him. All members of ISKCON for all generations are encouraged to seek shelter of Srila Prabhupada. All members of ISKCON are entitled and encouraged to have a personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada through his books, teaching, service, and his ISKCON society. So in other words, every devotee in the future will have a direct relationship with Srila Prabhupada. So this is not Ritva philosophy, this is ISKCON philosophy. Ritva philosophy means that Prabhupada's your Diksha Guru. That's what Ritva is. So we don't accept that. You have to take your Diksha from a living Guru, your mantra, that is. So teachings we can get from other devotees, but we also get it from Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is our Shiksha Guru, but we have a direct relationship with him also. So a disciple has many sources of inspiration which can help deliver him and get him to Krishna's lotus feet. So we have the Diksha Guru who gives the Krishna mantra, and consequently we can do deity worship. That's one way. We have the Shiksha Guru who's teaching the principles of bhakti and philosophy and the goal. Sambandha Abhedeya Prayojana. The Diksha Guru may also do that, but Shiksha Gurus may be doing that as well, and maybe they're doing it more than the Diksha Guru. And we have Srila Prabhupada and his books, and all of his inspiration he's given to ISKCON. And of course we have other devotees and other writings, etc. So all of this contribute. So it's not one person that's doing everything. We have a combination of things happening here. Different persons and different devotees are acting to help the disciple. So in ISKCON, we have an organization. Previously, there was not too much organization. Devotees were there, that was it, and a guru was there, but he didn't establish a formal organization. He just had some followers and initiated them. So, Prabhupada established an organization called ISKCON, and then he established a managerial structure there. We have a GBC at the top, then we have regional secretaries and regional bodies, and then we have temple presidents. So that's our basic managerial structure. This, of course, we may say is material, but everybody's a devotee there. So it's a spiritual structure with managerial duties. Now we could say material because they're handling properties and money and making decisions on preaching strategies, etc. But that's all spiritual also. It's all for serving the preaching mission and Lord Chaitanya. So in that sense it's actually spiritual. But anyway, that structure was established by Srila Prabhupada, and he wanted that structure to continue into the future for thousands of years. So we do have to see how to keep the society together, how to have unity within the society. How we have to see that as much as possible it does not break into fragments, as happened with the Gaudiya Math. There's not one Gaudiya Math, there's all separate temples now with separate heads, and no central organization at all. So Prabhupada saw that, and he didn't like that at all. He was very disturbed that they didn't follow Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's instructions. So we have a different structure, and we have to keep that structure in place, that managerial structure. So then we do have individual gurus who we call Diksha Gurus. And in the present ISKCON, these gurus get more loyalty than the disciples' loyalty to the managerial structure. And if they have to choose who to follow, they will follow the guru rather than the managerial authority. So this becomes problematic because there's a mixture of roles here for the guru, and it can create disunity. So we have to very, very carefully consider how much authority the guru has and distinguish his managerial from his spiritual authority. So disciples have to do that. So we talk about guru giving mercy. And by mercy, of course, we advance in devotional service. So we have faith. And by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we get the seed of bhakti. And by the mercy of devotees and gurus, Shiksha Guru, Diksha Gurus, we advance in devotional service. And by their mercy, we can get Prema. So what is that mercy? Is it just some zapping of devotees and suddenly you get mercy like that? So what is it? What is it? Some Shakti that's transmitted to the disciple? So we cannot deny that. Yes, the devotees do have Shakti. All devotees have Bhakti Shakti. They have it to various degrees according to their level of purity and advancement. So a devotee in Prema has got 100% Bhakti Shakti, and he can deliver anybody. One in Bhava has also got great power, but not the same amount as one in Prema. He can also deliver people. Those who are in sadhana and madhyamas, from let's say Nishta to Asakti, they have power to also inspire because they're the main distributors of this Bhakti Shakti in the material world. They're the main preachers. And so they're distributing Bhakti Shakti, and they have that with them to some degree. So what does that mean, Bhakti Shakti? What are they distributing? So, of course, we say they do have this bhakti within them, fine. But how does that manifest? Of course, simply the presence of a devotee is very wonderful. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says you take the foot water, the foot dust, or the Mahaprasada of a devotee, very purifying, whatever. So yeah, that type of Shakti is there. But the main function of the devotee is to give knowledge, to teach. So in other words, that shiksha, are giving knowledge. So the mercy of the devotee, and how he spreads mercy, is to give knowledge. And that's what we see Prabhupada did. How did he give knowledge? He wrote books. And so that's how his mercy continues in the future, because he gave his books and he spent lifetime writing these books from early days in Vrindavan and Radha Temple. He was writing Srimad Bhagavatam commentary, then went to America and continued to write that, and then he wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita. So all that is the mercy of Srila Prabhupada coming down. So again, the devotees themselves, this is the main way in which they transmit the mercy, by the teaching. So many ways of giving mercy, but this is one of the most important ways, by giving this knowledge. Yeah. So once the devotee or the guru gives that knowledge, it's up to the devotee to digest it and implement it. That is the responsibility of the devotee. It's not the responsibility of the guru. It's the responsibility of the devotee to implement all of that knowledge. He has to learn it and implement it. So the guru gives the instruction, that's his function, and then the devotee, the disciple, has to do the activities of bhakti. So in other words, simply by taking initiation, it's not a magic ceremony by which suddenly you're free from doing anything. That means you become responsible for doing bhakti, that's what it means, and following the orders of guru, which means the instructions of guru. So that's how mercy is transmitted. So if the devotee does not follow the instructions of guru, does not perform bhakti properly, does not attain prema. So the disciple has responsibility. It's not just you get a name and some beads and then you're a member of ISKCON. That's the beginning of your responsibility, a serious responsibility to practice bhakti. And the devotee shouldn't say, now I'm initiated, Guru is going to deliver me. No. You have to cultivate the bhakti creeper. And if you don't cultivate it, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to get delivered in spite of the fact you took initiation. So the guru has done his responsibility if he's teaching, and then the disciple has to be responsible for performing the bhakti. So the disciples, of course, want to surrender to Guru in advance and get the mercy and get the knowledge, etc. So devotees in ISKCON take initiation and they get a Diksha Guru. But then we also find that they take Diksha, they get a name, they get some beads. Later on they may take the Diksha mantra. But that Guru may not give that much knowledge, may not give detailed teachings. And so the devotee has to depend on others to get those instructions on how to chant and how to do everything else. So in other words, the Diksha Guru is not fulfilling his function of the teacher, being a Shiksha Guru at all. He's got the name of a Diksha Guru, and maybe later on he gives a Diksha mantra, so then he's functioning Diksha, but otherwise he's not doing anything else. And other people are taking the responsibility for nourishing helping the devotee nourish his bhakti creeper, etc. So therefore the devotee, even has a Diksha Guru, has to take other gurus, Shiksha Gurus, to advance in devotional service. So that should also be recognized. It's not that we just worship Diksha Guru and ignore everybody else. Okay, so we wrote this paper, Harmonizing Lines of Authority in ISKCON, now compulsory for all prospective initiates, and we talk about this problem of the Guru and his disciples, and then they would get loyalty to Guru, and the Guru may start giving managerial instructions on how to open temples and new projects or whatever, and then he ignores this whole structure that Prabhupada set up with GBCs and regional bodies and temple presidents and that. So then the devotees stuck between the two orders, and he usually follows the Guru rather than following the temple presidents or the GBCs. No? So we have to be very careful of this. Yeah, loyalty to your Diksha Guru, fine, but that should be confined to the spiritual instructions. What you learn, what you chant. And then, as for practical services, etc., you depend on the managerial structure. So the roles should be defined very nicely. So, in a managed organization that only has one guru, there's not too much complication because he's the absolute authority over everything, and everything depends on him. And it's also fine for keeping everyone together. It's also dangerous because if he disappears, everything disappears. No more managerial structure, no more spiritual inspiration. So it's very difficult to have such a system. So Prabhupada didn't do that. He made a managerial system where not just one person, but many persons, and not one guru, but many gurus. So that's why he did it. So there's not dependence on one person. But then that gives rise to difficulties because we can get so many gurus and whatever, and this may be competition for the unity of ISKCON. So that's the problem we face today. And in the future, it's probably going to get worse because we'll have thousands of sannyasis and 400, 500, thousands of gurus. And then we have the GBC authority there, so who's the ultimate authority? And the disciple stuck in the middle, and usually he's going to choose the guru over everybody else. So then we have so many little movements going on within ISKCON, so much loyalty to separate groups. It becomes very, very difficult to manage. So we have to be careful of that. So everyone has to be aware, gurus have to be aware of how to limit their authority within that structure. And disciples have to be aware of that also. And they have to see whether the instruction of guru is spiritual or is a managerial thing, and distinguish very clearly. So the gurus have the responsibility to train their disciples. The disciples have the responsibility to learn what is the jurisdiction of their Diksha Guru and the jurisdiction of ISKCON, and carefully distinguish between the two lines of authority. Amen. Managers, what do? It's not just material management. They are responsible for training and educating devotees, both the residents in the temple and the congregation. That's what the managerial structure is doing. So it's not material really, but they have that responsibility. They oversee projects, take new properties, purchase new properties, or accept donations of properties, build temples, collect money for new projects or sustaining the temple. They're responsible for doing this and safeguarding the assets legally. This is a very important function. It has some material aspects to it, but it's for preservation of the temples into the future. And of course they set the standards for how to do the preaching, so that's obviously very spiritual. And they have to be astute to see that we're in line with Prabhupada's vision for preaching and for his various policies. And of course, what do the gurus do? They are inspiring the disciple. As I say, if they want to do shiksha, fine. So they're giving mercy by giving spiritual instructions. That's their main function. And they shouldn't interfere with the other structure, that is the temple structure and whatever like that. It's very confusing. And it creates problems for the managers because the loyalty, the devotees don't listen. And they listen to somebody else. So we have to somehow get cooperation. So we have the clear lines of authority there, and then the disciples and the gurus also have to recognize that authority. So, in this way. So, both are lines, one is managerial, but it's also spiritual. So we have two spiritual lines that the devotees have to recognize and respect them both. They have different areas of jurisdiction. The disciple course was introduced. Some devotees got together and made a nice course on this course to identify the functions of guru, shiksha guru, diksha guru, and the disciple, how we should choose a guru. So many different topics are done, and it's now compulsory. And there's also a guru course put out by the ministry, the sannyasa and guru ministry. They made a course for those who are going to be gurus. So that's also compulsory for sannyasis and gurus. So we have some educational things, and education, of course, the basis by which we can create permanent changes. One problem that people have said with this disciple course is though it has many good points in it, that devotees get a little impatient and they don't want to take the course in its full manner, which may be 5 days, and they want to convince them put it into 2 days, like this. And moreover, they also take it just before they get initiation. So in other words, it's just like a qualification to get initiation. They take this course and they forget about it afterwards. So in other words, the function of the course is a failure because they're not really getting educated. They're just taking it as a matter of duty so they can get their initiation. So it's actually meant to educate them so they can choose a guru properly, and they can actually understand the function of guru in relation to ISKCON and its material structure. That's its whole purpose. But if they just take a course 3 days before they're initiated and they just go through the course and they forget about it, and then they just go on as previously with the same conception. So in that sense, we probably have to alter this and make it a course that they have to take long before they even think about initiation. Yeah. So anyway, we have all these different sources of inspiration for deliverance, and ultimately we should try also to concentrate on Srila Prabhupada. Okay, fine. Any question there? Yes.
Hari Rama Guruji, may I ask, what does it mean to surrender to the Guru, and what does it mean for the devotees, and is it the same surrender to the Lord?
Yeah. So surrender is a very general term. We can equate that with service to the Lord in a very thorough way. In other words, surrender means you give everything, you give your body, mind, and words to the service of the Lord. And that means that we don't want to serve material life and material enjoyment, etc. So whatever we do, we want to offer to the Guru or to Krishna, etc. So we should surrender to a Guru. We should also surrender to Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, surrender unto me and to me alone. So that word is used in both cases, for the devotees and for the Supreme Lord. So the reason for that is that, yes, we surrender to the Lord, but we need some approach to the Lord. So the means of getting to the Lord is through surrendering and serving devotees of the Lord. So they're the main conveyors of the Bhakti Shakti, the power of Bhakti. Of course, some rare devotees may have direct contact with Supreme Lord, but that's rather rare. So we usually go through devotees, and they give us mercy in the form of teachings and inspiration, etc. So therefore we approach the Lord and surrender to the Lord by surrendering to Guru to get the proper knowledge by which we can advance. So two things go together.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for that illuminating class. You mentioned that the Panchadatrika Marg or the Bhagavad Marg are both kind of equal. Is that correct in my understanding?
They're both there, but actually we emphasize the Bhagavad Marg more because the Yuga Dharma is the main process.
So how can we hear, in general, growing up, I always heard this analogy that taking Diksha was like plugging the socket into the wall, and only when you take Diksha, my question is, should we encourage everyone to take Diksha?
So that's the basic problem. And misconception maybe.
Yes.
If you don't take Diksha, you're not real devotee, you're not connected with the Parampara, etc., etc. But as I said, we trace our Parampara by Shiksha, not by Diksha at all. In the Bhagavad Gita at least, and Bhaktisiddhanta Srila Prabhupada. So they stress the Shiksha over the Diksha.
Right. So for people who have been around for a long time, we get constantly asked, for example, my husband, he's been around for 30 years.
Yeah.
He's not initiated.
Okay.
So many devotees will take the liberty to come up to him and tell him, Prabhu, when are you going to get initiated?
Yes.
Somehow you are not eligible, or you haven't reached a certain level because you're not initiated.
Yeah. Yeah. So Prabhupada's made many statements about what is initiation. One is that real initiation is when you take Krishna consciousness seriously. The ceremony of initiation is a formality. So long before you get your ceremony, you can be initiated in one sense. In other words, seriously practicing Bhakti, Krishna accepts that. So it's not, and then what concept of initiation is, the actual initiation means getting the deity mantra. But then most devotees, they may get the deity mantra, but it's all very secondary. They don't even know the meaning of it. They just chant it every day, but they don't know the meaning of it, and may not even do deity worship and use it to offer offerings to the deity. So that doesn't make too much sense. So for ISKCON, Diksha means first initiation.
There you go.
Yes. Which is not technically the Diksha. It's only Diksha in the sense that we get a name, which is part of Pancha Samskar, which is part of a Diksha also. But, as I said, even Lord Chaitanya didn't get a name, and Nityananda didn't get a name, so that wasn't considered an essential part of Diksha. But anyway, we have first initiation, so we get a name, so there's 5 items, and we're getting 1 there out of the 5. The most important is to get the mantra, otherwise you cannot do deity worship. So it's kind of a part of an initiation in one sense. But more, I say, it's more shiksha than diksha, the first initiation.
You also mentioned that we should be able to distinguish between lesser and greater devotees.
Yes.
So would it be safe to say that someone who has taken Diksha is a greater devotee because he's surrendered more?
Okay, yeah. Well, as I said, it's in some sense, it's okay. Like you go to grade 1 or grade 2, grade 3, and it's like a thing. But we do know that those divisions are a little bit arbitrary. And somebody may have most intelligence and he's only in the 1st standard, he may be better than somebody in the 8th standard even, some genius or whatever. So on the other hand, somebody in 8th grade, he may have somehow passed, but actually knows nothing. He's way back in the 1st grade. So these labels are not a guarantee that a person's at a certain level spiritually. They become more or less an official standard which has so many exceptions to it.
So for my son who's sitting there, what would you tell him? Should he take Diksha?
Well, Diksha in what sense? Now the meaning of Diksha, what is it? Is it first initiation or second initiation? Or is it the internal initiation? The main thing is we should be serious about Krishna consciousness. That's the main thing. And we should get knowledge from somebody so that we can advance and chant purely. However that is, through Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, or whatever, first initiation, whatever happens, if it happens there, fine. If it doesn't happen there, then we go to somebody else to help us chant purely and whatever. So, but whatever means we can do to chant purely, that's the thing, whether we call it initiation or not. That would be the broad answer. So our connection, as I said, is not through the Diksha, it is through the Shiksha, actually. So we can't say that unless you take initiation, you're not connected to the Sampradaya. If you get your second initiation mantras, you are connected to the Diksha Parampara. But we can always get connected to the Shiksha Parampara without that as well, which is traced in the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you for a wonderful class. How do we understand the role of vows that we take during Diksha and then compare that to Siksha?
Yeah. So, in our, we can always have another presentation that analyzes our Diksha, present Diksha, what it means. But so, ISKCON's first initiation is quite special. It was based upon Bhaktisiddhanta's Namdan, giving the name, which was not called initiation at all. They only call second one initiation, not the first thing. And so it was a rather informal ceremony where they would get beads chanted on by usually a guru, but not necessarily, and they may get a name. And they had some very simple vows, not very advanced from our point of view. So when Prabhupada started ISKCON, he used that model, but he made some more strict standards. So you chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulator principles. These are the basic vows. Then we have, loyalty to ISKCON and teaching of Srila Prabhupada and things like this. So these are the vows that have become standardized within our ceremony. So this, of course, is not like something was standardized by scriptural meaning of Diksha at all. That was just get the mantra, basically. So these are things that are introduced, but nothing wrong with them, very good in fact, because it makes a person come up to a certain standard if he can follow those vows. That's one thing that's which is maybe unique for ISKCON, is to have those vows at quite a high standard. And we get the beads, and we also have a fire sacrifice, which is not there in the Gaudiya Math at all. We have a fire sacrifice also. So, of course, as I said, the fire sacrifice was never there as part of Gaudiya Diksha at all in the past. It's there for samskaras, but not for Diksha. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur introduced giving Brahma Gayatri mantra after the initiation with the mantra to show that a duly initiated Pancharaktic Vaishnava is more qualified than a Brahmana. So therefore he gave the Gayatri mantra and the thread to the men. And he did the Upanayana Samskara at that time. And there's a fire sacrifice to go with that. So that's where we get a fire sacrifice introduced into our Gaudiya initiation. So it's not a Pancharatric sacrifice, it's a Vedic sacrifice for Upanayana to get the Gayatri mantra, which is also like secondary. So anyway, the vows are there, and it's very good because it sets a nice standard for a devotee to follow, and you're vowing in front of a guru or a devotee, so it's good to make people serious. But you can make vows without that also. If you find a Shiksha Guru, you can also make vows to him. Nothing stopping you from doing that. So there's no formal scriptural ceremony for accepting a Shiksha Guru. It's just the sincerity on the part of the particular devotee, who finds that the teachings are very inspirational for him, for some person, and he accepts them like that. But maybe that's a good reason for that. If we institutionalize it, again, it becomes like a diksha, it becomes like some sort of material status symbol or something like that for us. So maybe for that reason they didn't give a particular ceremony for that.
Maharaj, out of the 5 angas of
Yeah.
Prema, you mentioned that the Nam Sankirtan is the topmost.
Mm-hmm.
So will Nam Sankirtan include so it's Nam Sankirtan. So will that Nam include the Sankirtan which can be done together, like studying the Bhakti Shastras together or the Bhakti Shastras together? Or will it only be Nam Sankirtan, as in Nam Sankirtan, where we get together and we chant?
Oh, okay, yeah. So Nam Sankirtan refers to, yes, congregational chanting only and japa, both those things. When we're doing Shastra, that is Shravanam. Hearing Bhagavatam, studying Bhagavatam, discussing Bhagavatam, that's all part of Shravanam. It's also important, as I said, because Nama is independent, but if we want to get Prema, we need knowledge. So we get it through Shravana. That is where we get our knowledge.
So, but if one person has more attachment for studying the Bhakti Shastras and less attachment for chanting the holy name, so we just do that 16 rounds and then that's done, and then the rest of the time is more in studying the Shastra, then where does that person stand?
Well, at least he's putting some stress upon the chanting and keeping up some standard, no problem for that. Yeah. Obviously, some people maybe spending 6 hours a day reading Shastras and maybe 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day for their japa or whatever, so no problem.
And you mentioned about Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojan.
Yeah.
So when we say Sambandha, so have I understood correct? When I have understood that, so the Siksha Guru is more than capable of establishing that Sambandha as well. Have I understood correct? So when we say Sambandha does not just mean giving you the knowledge of someone, it is establishing that connection to Krishna. So is the Siksha Guru more than capable of doing that sambandh of that disciple?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, Sambandha again means, of course, the philosophical knowledge. Who is Krishna? Who is Jiva? They're separate. They're not one. Jiva doesn't merge into God. Things like that. Because we can't do bhakti unless we have a clear idea of a definition of Jiva and a definition of the Supreme Lord. So that's what we call Sambandha again. And then Abhidya is process of pure bhakti. And what is pure bhakti as opposed to mixed bhakti or Sudanam versus Namabhas or whatever. And the method of bhakti always needs a goal. If we don't have a goal, we don't get the goal. Despite the practice. So therefore prayojana is the goal, which means prema. And therefore we have to have all three aspects there. So the guru who gives that would be called the Shiksha Guru. Yeah. Of course, Diksha Guru could also function as a Shiksha Guru and give that knowledge as well. And it can also be given independently of the Diksha Guru by the Shiksha Guru. Knowledge of all the philosophical aspects, knowledge of how to chant properly and the different other processes like deity worship, and knowledge of the goal. So, in that way, we get our relationship with Krishna ultimately established by all these three aspects.
As you mentioned that the Brahma Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya is a Shiksha Sampradaya. So you re-emphasize that way.
We are tracing it that way.
Yeah. It's a Shiksha Sampradaya. But if you have given your heart to a Siksha Guru and you're trying to follow her instructions as closely as you can, but if that Siksha Guru, despite teaching you Chaitanya Charitamrita, which says that Siksha Guru and Diksha Guru are the same, if that Siksha Guru is insisting that you should take Diksha, so then the disciple, should that disciple then to say that yes, I will follow all the instructions of my Siksha Guru, so then that disciple should take Diksha, because his Siksha Guru is telling him that he must take Diksha.
Yeah. So if we have a Shiksha Guru and they advise us to take Diksha, nothing wrong with that, because as I said, we don't reject the process of Diksha, and most of our members of the Sampradaya from ancient times also took initiation. Even Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda took initiation, Advaita took initiation, Gadadhar took initiation, so nobody avoided it. It's just a matter of how much we're stressing it, that's all, whether we give it more importance or less importance or whatever. So they all took it. One, of course, is because of deity worship qualification. The other is not to break the tradition. So we have our main anga is Nam Sankirtan, but we also have Archana as one of the 5 important things. So we don't want to, de-emphasize that also. So therefore, they also continue with the initiation. So therefore, our main interest could be in the Shiksha, but then if the Shiksha Guru is saying take initiation, but you can ask them why. What is the purpose of that initiation? Then you get a good answer from it. Because do our Diksha Gurus know what initiation is actually? Is it does he want that you take more instructions, or that you get the deity mantra? And he wants you to deity worship. So what actually is the function of that Diksha? Or is it merely to be accepted in ISKCON and in the Sampradaya as having a Diksha Guru? Those could be the different reasons why he may suggest you to take the Diksha. You should ask him why also. How does that Diksha Guru function? Because we do need that knowledge in order to give him proper respect. What's he actually doing? And then, all we have to relate the Diksha Guru and the Shiksha Guru and how we respect each other. So it's also necessary to know that.
Sometimes Maharaj, the Siksha Guru, even some of them, they are very, very advanced and they are very humble. So they are, when they are in female body, they want you to, they want to give you all the knowledge, but at the same time, to maintain their humble position, they are sort of trying to re-emphasize that you need another Guru, you need a Diksha Guru. Do not give me all that respect. Do not give me all that importance.
Well, it may not be Diksha Guru, it could be another Shiksha Guru. I mean, it could be. But there's nothing wrong with taking, more than one Shiksha Guru, but you can only take one Diksha Guru.
Maharaj, thank you again for being with us and giving us amazing insights. On the theme of respect, when we read Nectar of Instruction in Bhanu Swami's formula for respecting, mentally honoring those who chant the holy name, and then offering obeisances to those who have taken Diksha. From a social and cultural approach, I think after today's insights, does that create a bit of a struggle in how I'm going to differentiate whom I'm mentally honoring, and am I bowing down only to the pujaris because
They're Diksha. Yeah. Well, actually the devotee respects all living entities, and there's a whole section like that in Kapila's teachings in 3rd Canto Bhagavad. You gotta respect all living entities, otherwise you're not a devotee. So we give respect to all jivas, and particularly the human beings, and we respect brahmanas, we respect cows, we respect plants like Tulsi Devi. And all devotees, of course, get more respect than others, regardless of their ashram or their varna. But then, according to their level, we also give different levels of respect. So I think in the Nectar of Instruction, it says you can mentally respect some who are kind of nominally following or whatever like that. That would mean mixed bhakti or namabhas, etc. Or even less than that. So, yeah, we can mentally respect even those devotees. Those who are seriously practicing, then we give more respect. And that's why he says Diksha, one who's initiated, then we give more respect, etc. But then, of course, he says, then the other one is the one who's really absorbed in chanting and whatever like that. You give him, you serve him. You actually serve him. So it's more respect. So there's different levels of respect we give to devotees. So if a devotee is initiated and another devotee is not initiated, and of course initiated generally means they're more serious, uninitiated not, but that's kind of a general rule. And we may have devotees who are not initiated, the more advanced than those who are initiated, so we have to be very careful that we don't reject those devotees. And according to our understanding, if we find them more advanced, we give more respect to them also. So it may be convenient to say initiated or not initiated, but actually, we have to use our intelligence to see who's really more advanced. It may not depend on your status. Yeah? So in ISKCON, of course, it will say, okay, they're more advanced. If they got the title of Guru, they're more advanced automatically than a person that's not got the title of Guru. Or they're more advanced or they're sannyasi rather than a grihastha. But that's all external. It's not actually the real measure of advancement. Those are titles only. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned that in order to worship the deity, you have to take mantra from the gurus. You have to take
Pancharatic standard, yes.
Second initiation. Is there any other reason to take second initiation other than deity worship? Because often devotees want to take second initiation but not worship the deity.
So then, why would they take it, you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, that's up to them to decide. I think it's just a custom in ISKCON.
Exactly.
And we don't really know what it does, but if you're considered on a higher level if you get second initiation rather than first initiation. So that's the main thing. You're more advanced, in other words. So it becomes a little bit materialized in the sense that you're more advanced. It's a sign you're more advanced. But it may not be like that, but because it's just a title they're getting after so many years or whatever. But the real function, of course, is to get them up to do the worship of the deity. That's what it is for. But it functions a different way within ISKCON.
May I ask a
How does the chanting of Gayatri help in the advancement of spiritual advancement in chanting within? Because after Gayatri, after second initiation, you are allowed to chant Gayatri mantra. So does that help in purification?
Is there more purification there, you're saying? When you say Gayatri, which Gayatri do you mean? Because we got so many Gayatris for chanting.
When we get Diksha, second initiation,
Yeah.
we are asked to chant a certain number of Gayatris every day,
Yes.
a day. So when we chant all those Gayatris, does that purify our mind?
Yeah. So, as I said, this is part of Pancharatric rules, and it's a means of advancing. The main use is for deity worship, but you can also use your mantras or mantra for as japa. You can't do kirtan because it's secret, but you can do japa, and it functions in the same way we do nam japa with our beads. And Gopakumar in Briya Bhagavatamrita, he just got a 10-syllable mantra, and that's what he chanted for, Kalpa or so, the day of Brahma. And he got up to Vaikuntha, whatever, through that. So it's a type of sadhana for meditation, or japa, as well as for using it in deity worship. So both things are there. But as I said here, by mantra you can get liberation, by nama you get prema. So actually, chanting the whole name is more powerful than the mantra.
Okay. Hare Krishna, apology. How do I actually contact you and stay in touch?
No, I have an email.
Email?
Yeah.
Do you do lectures online?
So many things for that. You have the address?
You can check on YouTube. All the lectures.
You're alright, then you're right.
Well, you mentioned Sankirtan has two kind of like japa and kirtan.
Yeah.
People do kirtan. So, but when I see devotees, usually they congregate more for kirtan or nagar sankirtan or doing kirtan. But when it comes to japa, people don't congregate more to do japa together. So I'm trying to understand, does it matter as a community?
For japa or doing it together?
Doing japa together, yeah.
Oh, okay. But there's no rule. Japa means it's basically for yourself, so whether you do it together or separate, that's up to you. Some people that do it together, it's easier for them to set the standard that way, because if they left by themselves, they may fall asleep or do something else or whatever, do some other activity. So better they do it all together, and then but other people don't fall asleep, and they just do it on their own, and there's no problem with doing it. So it's whatever is convenient for the particular devotee.
Hi. Thanks so much. Thank you for your very detailed and beautiful class. I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, if I'm not mistaken, when you had mentioned the understanding of Diksha, you said we mainly take Diksha to attain Prema. Am I right?
That's the way of getting Prema.
Okay.
In other words, we have 5 items in the Angas of Bhakti. One is deity worship. And very easily you can realize Krishna that way. That's one thing. Of course, we emphasize more nama, chanting the holy name now, but it's one way.
Okay, so there's more than one way in that sense to take.
To get Prema, yeah. All 64 Angas of Bhakti get you to Prema. But 5 are the most prominent, and of those we take Nam Sankirtan. That's the most prominent way.
When we say in the Guru Vandana that, Yasya Prasado, Bhagavad Prasado, who are we referring to, the Shiksha Guru or the Diksha Guru?
Either. Both. As I said, both lead to Prema.
Do we also, in one sense, take the management of ISKCON to also be part of that scenario where we say Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasada?
Do we?
We also take the management of ISKCON to be in that line as well, where we please them, then we can please Krishna.
They're all devotees, yeah. You can be any devotee, actually. In other words, you can take any devotee as your Shiksha Guru.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class. Maharaj, I wanted to ask about Namabhas. Usually we are recommended to chant in Namabhas, but when we chant, there is real Namabhas and there is distorted Namabhas. So in real Namabhas, when we chant, all the anarthas and ignorance come out of our heart. Slowly they go away when we increase our chanting. But Maharaj, also distorted Namabhas is also, there is also ignorance in there as well. In distorted Namabhas, there is also ignorance in there as well. So how do we know that is coming out or not, because on the stage to Prem, sometimes we are up, sometimes we are down.
So namabhas, there are two types of namabhas. One is called chaya namabhas, the other is called pratibimba namabhas. Of the two, pratibimba is the more distorted one. It's considered to be the sun reflected on water that has waves in it. So the image of the sun is no longer there, it's all like little bits. So that's called pratibimba. The other is called chaya namabhas, which means it's like, it's not directly the sun, but it's a reflection of the sun, which is a little better. So the pratibimba namabhas is to chant the holy name with impurities, but with offense mixed in. So in other words, we have strong material desires to the extent that may override anything else about attaining prema, whatever, and we may start thinking that the limit of the name is simply to get material things. So that's like one of the 10 offenses of the holy name. Or for Mayavadi, the whole purpose of chanting is to merge into Brahman, and Krishna's form is illusion. So then that type of namabhas, which is, they do it for some initial purification, that will not lead to prema at all. Yeah? So that's considered to be aparad, so we can't really advance through that. The other type of namabhas is not intentional, aparad or anything. We may have ignorance by which you may think, Krishna's got a form, but he's in the devata like everybody else. But it's not out of hostility, it's just out of ignorance. And if somebody tells us, okay, Krishna's Swayam Bhagavan, he's beyond the material world, he hasn't got a material body, he's better than all the devatas and better than all the other forms of the Lord, then namabhas can lead to, that type of namabhas, by the mercy of devotees, can lead to pure name. So that namabhas in itself, if he's in that type of ignorance, is a process of gradual purification, but only up to the level of destroying all your anarthas, but not getting a place in the spiritual world in prema, so it doesn't lead to prema. If you want to get a prema, we have to have sudanam. So one person with this chaya namabhas then should take association of devotees, clear up his ignorance, not commit any aparads, minimize his anarthas, and that way he can get to prema.
Thank you so much for the class today. In the CC it says that deity worship is essential for the restless mind. So we can see that in the Kali Yuga at least. I speak for myself, but there's many restless minds. So is it alongside, obviously, Nam, should everyone be engaging with deity worship as well? To kind of...
Well, it is up to the individual. Some people are not really attracted to deity worship, they're attracted to kirtan. So just do kirtan without that, so that's fine. It's not that you have to do deity worship, but for many people, they want to engage themselves, so it's good to get some engagements, their hands and their feet and their eyes and whatever. So it's up to the individual.
You mentioned about Brahma Gayatri, that it is mainly for deity worship.
Not Brahma Gayatri.
Second initiation.
The other mantras. That was the secondary thing added by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. It was not there in the Diksha before that.
Brahma Gayatri is Upanayana.
Yeah. That was a Vedic Diksha, which was carried out when you're 5 years old usually. Like Lord Chaitanya got his Upanayana when he's 5 years old. He got his Vaishnava initiation later on in Gaya. So they were separate. But Bhaktisiddhanta also added that after your Pancharatric initiation to show that the devotee was superior to the Brahmana.
Okay, should we do next question?
So sorry. From today's lecture, would it be safe for me to conclude that actually our misunderstanding or disagreement with the Ritviks is simply in Diksha?
Yeah.
So are we actually a Ritvik Sampradaya that just initiates on behalf of Srila Prabhupada?
In one sense, yeah. Because, in other words, all any guru we have who's giving initiation in ISKCON and giving the mantras, he's not independent. And he's not claiming that he is in Prema. So we're merely representing Prabhupada, whatever power the devotees got, and also coming from Prabhupada. So in that sense, yeah, we're all connected to Prabhupada, and we're acting as the instruments of Srila Prabhupada in doing initiation or whatever, even Shiksha as well, actually.
Okay. Okay. There's one question. Maharaj, you mentioned in the class, in order to attain Prema, there's two aspects that are really important. One is the mercy of the devotees who are in Krishna. The second is our endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
How much emphasis should be given on each of those in order for us to progress?
Well, both are necessary. Like in the story of Damodar, Mother Yasoda tried to tie up Krishna, and she got rope, and when she got the rope, it was too short. And how much it was too short? 2 fingers. She got more rope, put it together, it was still 2 fingers short. Got more rope, put it together, still 2 ropes, 2 fingers. So somehow something was lacking there all the time. Finally, after many attempts, she managed to tie up Krishna. So then our acharyas explain that what is the significance of 2 fingers? They say, in the absence of 2 things, you cannot control Krishna. And what are the 2 things? Mercy and endeavor. So Mother Yasoda put great endeavor into tying up Krishna. She tried many, many times, and she was getting tired. So then Krishna recognized that, and he became merciful. So without the endeavor, he would not be merciful. So therefore, endeavor is necessary, but without the mercy again, if Krishna still saw endeavor and didn't do anything, then he would not get tied up. So both things are necessary. They go together more or less. But if one makes the endeavor, then Krishna is merciful. So same with devotees. Okay. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Bhanu Swami ki Jai.